Welcome to Mac Stories Unwind, the show that's all about the picks. Today's episode is brought to you by SaneBox. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You know what? I'm still working through my movie list from Christmas. I watched so many movies with my family while we were enjoying the holidays, and one of them was I wouldn't call it a very Christmassy movie, but I watched Nope, which is
That's not a Christmassy movie.
No, it's not. And, you know, if you think back, this is, I'll have to put in the show notes where I watched this from. I think I streamed it from somewhere. I lose track of where I stream things from. It might have been
too many streaming services.
Yeah, too many. It might have been HBO Max, but I'll put it in the show notes in any event and see. I don't know. You know, this stuff moves around so much too that you never know what is current and what's not. But Nope is a movie by Jordan Peele. And Jordan Peele, started his career as a comedian and is now a movie director who's very hot. And people love his movies. I have not really been following Jordan Peele movies, and this was the first one I had seen. Because Nope was one of those movies that got hyped forever. I think it was probably a year that there were, movie posters released, very vague trailers released, and it was really not clear what this story was all about. And I won't give away all the juicy details because it's fun to be kind of surprised by a movie like this. But Nope is a movie that comes, I think, from kind of the genre that reminds me a lot of things like David Lynch movies or TV shows like Twin Peaks or The Twilight Zone or The X-Files. It's kind of this fear of the unknown type of movie. Jordan Peele is known for horror movies, and I'm not a big fan of horror movies personally, but this is really more of the outer space fear of aliens type of jump scare type of movie, which I'm a little more into. And I really enjoyed this movie because it has a lot of vibes of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg, where you don't see a lot of the extraterrestrials that are involved in this movie. It's more of a sense of foreboding and the unknown of what's going on in this story, because it starts out it's a really interesting panorama of characters and environments that are kind of unexpected, because the two protagonists in this movie are OJ, played by Daniel Kaluuya, and his sister Emerald, who is Keke Palmer. And they are ranchers that raise horses, and they're black. And there aren't that many black cowboys in the movies. And so that's a little bit different right off the bat. You wonder what's going on with that. And it turns out that they are descendants of a horse trainer that, if you go back in history and look at what is considered the first moving pictures, the first movie ever made, it was of a black man riding on a horse. And they say that they are descendants of this person, and they've been raising horses ever since for movies and TV shows. So that's kind of their backstory. They've got this ranch out in the middle of nowhere, and nearby there's a kind of a carnival type of setup that is, one of these tourist trap old west type of towns where you go and, they show you the rodeo and they do shows, and you go into old fashioned buildings, and that's down the road from them. And right off the bat with this story, though, that something's not quite right, because there's a cloud on the horizon and the cloud doesn't move, and they notice it. And they think that there's something going on with this cloud. So what what's kind of fun modern about this story is that they think, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to film what's going on, because we're going to get this on like YouTube or whatever, and we're going to be famous if we can show what's happening here. And so they team up with a guy who is a clerk at a Fry's electronics store. Now, Fry's is an electronics store that is a little bit like Best Buy. It's a smaller
like Radio Shack.
It's a little more, it's like a cross between those two. We had a Fry's in Illinois that eventually shut down, but I think they started out west somewhere like in California, And there were huge stores where you could buy all kinds of electronic parts like a Radio Shack, but you could also buy computers and TVs and appliances for your home. They had all kinds of stuff. But they hook up with this guy who's very much a classic super nerd who's really into his, security camera setup and knows exactly what to do. So he's mounting cameras on the rancher's barn and around the house to try to capture whatever it is that's going on, this unknown thing that's happening with this creepy cloud. And so he ends up being kind of their partner in crime in figuring out what's going on. And later in the movie, they hook up with yet another guy who is a cinematographer who has an ability to shoot movies mechanically without any electronics in order to capture a film of these what's going on here. And I don't want to try not to give away too much here, but what's happening, part of what's happening is that whatever is occurring is knocking out power, screwing up electronics, and the usual stuff you expect when you watch an alien type movie. And so the plot of the movie just goes on with trying to figure out exactly what's happening here, and then it becomes entangled with this carnival type old west rodeo place down the road, and there's a connection there between what's happening with this alien presence and what's happening on the ranch. And the climax of the movie is them trying to capture these shots and figure out what's going on. And it's really well done. I mean, I think one of the things that I liked a lot about it is it has this interesting sweeping vistas of the West that is very, the ranches that reminds you a lot of like a cowboy movie. Yet it's also this story about aliens and carnivals. And it's just the cinematography in it is just really well done. And the acting is fantastic because OJ is just a really quiet, introverted guy who's just trying to do his job and be successful on the ranch. And his sister is kind of out there kind of an entrepreneur looking to make a buck. And she has the idea originally of, getting the stuff on film and making something of it. And it's interesting to see the two of them interact. And then these other people come along for the ride along the way. And it's really cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's probably considered Jordan Peele's best movie. And I think it suffered a little bit from the hype that once people saw it, maybe some people were let down a little bit. But having known very little about it and just jumping in over the holidays, it was a lot of fun. It's just kind of a movie to watch to relax to.
All right.
This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by SaneBox. Inbox Zero is a thing of the past. We're all just so inundated with email, now more than ever, that it's no longer about responding to everything. It's about responding only to the important things, the messages that truly matter. And that's where SaneBox comes in. Think of it as a robotic Marie Kondo for your email. As messages flow in, SaneBox does the triage for you, leaving only the important emails in your inbox and directing all the other distracting stuff to your Sane Later folder. So you know which messages to pay attention to now and what stuff you can get to later on. It also has a great feature called the Sane Black Hole, where you can drag messages from annoying senders that you never want to hear from again into it so you'll never have to see them again, and Sane reminders to ping you if someone hasn't replied to your email by a certain date. Best of all, you can use SaneBox with any email client or phone, anywhere you check your email. See how SaneBox can magically remove distractions from your inbox with a free 2-week trial. Visit sanebox.com/MacStories today to start your free trial and get a $25 credit. That's SANEBOX.com/MacStories. Our thanks to SaneBox for their support of the show.
And I have a quick pick this week, which is it's about video games, but it's not about a game specifically, and it's a joint pick because it's both about a cloud service and a piece of hardware that I recently acquired. So the main pick of mine is the GeForce Now cloud streaming service. So
Yes.
this is the NVIDIA GeForce Now cloud gaming platform that I recently have been using on. I've been testing it on my gaming PC and on my iPhone and iPad. Because as I may have said on my shows, I finally have a fiber connection at home, and I finally activated this 1 gigabit fiber connection, and it's been incredible. It's such a life-changing thing to have fiber and super fast downloads and super fast upload times. And of course, one of the things that I can do with a really fast internet connection at home is cloud gaming, which requires a ton of bandwidth and a ton of stability and speed and minimal latency. I've been keeping an eye on GeForce Now. I know that you, John, have been playing around with it as well on the Mac.
Yep.
I wanted to take it for a spin because at the same time, NVIDIA recently announced that they were starting the process of upgrading some of their data centers to for the ultimate tier of the GeForce Now streaming service. They were upgrading them to have 4080 GPUs. So one of the latest graphical cards of the 40 series, the RTX 4080 specifically, not the 4090, which is the big, chunky, expensive boy, but the 4080, which is also like an incredible GPU, much better than the 3080 Ti that I have at home. So I was like, okay, I wanna see what it's like to play on GeForce Now games with a fiber connection, with the ultimate tier, with the data center that's been upgraded to a 4080 GPU. And I was not expecting GeForce Now to be this incredible. I sort of thought, it's gonna be kind of like Game Pass, which is meaning the game is going to be playable, but there's going to be, a bunch of graphical artifacts, some latency here and there, the occasional message that says your internet connection is slow. Like I was expecting that sort of experience. Now, I'm not here to say that playing GeForce Now is equivalent to playing a game locally on your PC in front of you, but it's so close to that experience, and it's been incredible For example, I'm gonna give you some numbers here. I started playing Cyberpunk 2077, really graphically intensive game, at the ray tracing ultra setting.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing you can do that.
The maximum graphical setting. Of course, you can enable it because of the 4080 GPU that's in the servers that NVIDIA has upgraded. So playing Cyberpunk at ray tracing ultra. And the game on my iPhone, so on the iPhone, you need to use this with a web app. It's not even a native app. You're literally saving a web app from Safari to your home screen. It never dropped below 60 frames per second. And I was streaming this game. I couldn't see any latency. I couldn't perceive any delay in pressing the buttons or just moving around, moving the camera, opening menus. And I took some screenshots and I posted them on Mastodon, and it looks so good on the iPhone 14 Pro's display. It's wild. And of course, I tried the same thing on my iPad. I tried it on my gaming PC. And I mean, I can play Cyberpunk with better graphical settings via cloud streaming with GeForce Now than on my gaming PC that I have at home. Because my gaming PC does not support the latest, DLSS 3, or, it cannot push the game to ray tracing ultra settings. I've also been playing the game Season on PC. Also, that's not as intensive a game as Cyberpunk, I was just playing the game, and with no delay, with no latency, totally fine, totally playable. Now, a couple of things. First, I had no idea that when you play GeForce Now, the service is not like its own standalone thing where you buy games and it's a totally separate platform, like say Google Stadia.
Right. It's not a store at all.
It's not a store. You basically get a fancy VNC client, right? Where you provide your Steam credentials, you log in with your Steam account, the game, and now correct me if I'm wrong here, the service picks up games from your Steam library that are compatible with GeForce Now. So
Yes.
not every game in your
Yeah, it's a
library is going to
subset.
show up, right? It's a
Right.
subset of your games. Some of those games are going to show up in your library. They're going to be playable, but you are going to log basically into a virtual machine that is logged into your Steam account, meaning it's another Steam device. So all of your cloud saves, all of your settings are there. I picked up Cyberpunk with my save from Steam because you literally see the Steam UI as the game is loading. You see this virtual machine. It's like logging into a remote Mac Mini.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's like having a remote gaming PC with a fantastic GPU in it, and logged in with your Steam credentials
and a whole infrastructure behind it.
Right. It works with the Epic Game Store too, and one other. I'm trying to remember what the other one is, but there's a third.
Ubisoft, whatever it's called.
Right. Right.
I had no idea that it worked this way. And this makes it so much more viable than other cloud streaming services for me, because this is the equivalent of having a Steam Deck, but for cloud gaming. It's another way that I can access my Steam library, that I can pick up my existing progress and play the same games, or at the very least a subset of them. I will be curious to know what's up in terms of why are only some games available and some
I don't
are
know.
not.
There must be something that they need to do to make them compatible.
Yeah, I don't know. But in any case, it becomes like another interface for your Steam library. And now, this has been ringing in my brain for the whole week. How long until Valve makes their own cloud streaming service? I'm really surprised that they still haven't made one.
Yeah, it's true.
Seems like an opportunity for them to start charging people for a subscription. But in any case, I am impressed with GeForce Now. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up, I wanted to play these games with my iPhone, as I mentioned, and I wanted to play them with the controller. Now, I'm not a huge fan of those controllers that have like a cradle and you put your phone inside of it and the phone is sort of floating above the DualSense or the Xbox controller. I had a Backbone controller, but the thing I dislike about the Backbone controller is that I need to take off my leather case from the iPhone 14 Pro Max that I have. I didn't want to take off the leather case, and you so helpfully suggested you should get the Razer Kishi controller, which you reviewed on Mac Stories a few months ago. So I went on Amazon, got the Razer Kishi version 2 with Lightning, compatible with iOS, and it's perfect, John. This thing is perfect for me. I don't need to take off the leather case. There are two rubber things on the Kishi that you can take off because they're not glued to the controller. So you take off the rubber padding and your phone with the leather case just slides right in. And so removing that tiny bit of friction that was take off the case and put the case back on is perfect for me. So all I need to do is take my phone, open the GeForce Now web app on my phone, on the home screen, logs me in, pick the game, slides it into the controller, and I can start streaming a game logged into my Steam account. And later, if I want, I can continue the same game on my gaming PC or on my Steam Deck. This pervasiveness, this ubiquitous nature of Steam and being able to have one sort of truth, which is my Steam library, and access that library with different devices, I'm all in favor of that sort of philosophy.
Oh, yeah. It really makes the Steam library a lot more valuable to you because it's not just on the Steam Deck or your gaming PC. It's really on any device you have because also...
it's like Dropbox, but for games.
Right. GeForce Now works with smart TVs, too. I know it works with both recent era LG and Samsung TVs. The biggest limitations, really, I've found are with the screens themselves, not with the hardware doing the computing, because LG screens, there's some limitations on resolution. Samsung, I think, is the only smart TV that can push 4K with GeForce Now. I think iPads and iPhones are limited to 1080p. And, if you're using a Mac like I've been doing, you don't get, for instance, HDR with the studio display because it's not an HDR display. But if you have if you want the absolute highest resolution, best quality graphics from GeForce Now, what you really want is a gaming PC display more than anything else.
Yeah. For now, it's limited on iOS. The European Union will probably save us.
I
And
hope
will let us
so.
install a native GeForce Now app on our iPhones and iPads in the near future. Probably. Right now, it's a web app, and the web app comes with those limitations. No
Yeah.
120 hertz refresh, no HDR. Well,
There's
for
Safari
now,
limitations, basically, as the way I understand it.
for now, we'll see. We'll see in June.
All right, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed it a lot myself, and if anybody is out there, at least if you're in the U.S. and you've got unlimited 5G on your mobile plan, you can get 6 months of GeForce Now Ultimate for free. And because I signed up and I've got it free until early August, and it's been really nice. I mean, it's going to definitely be a way that they suck me in. I'm sure August will come by and I'll have to pay because I'll be so used to using it by then.
I have a free headline for you, John, like a free
What's that?
clickbaity hot take for you.
Yeah.
The article just writes itself in my head. The best gaming experience on iPhone is Steam. Yeah,
That's perfect.
that's the
That's
story for you.
perfect. Yeah, it absolutely is. All right, Federico, that's it for this week. I want to thank our sponsor again for this week. That's SaneBox. You can find me and Federico over at MacStories.net. We're on Mastodon, and you can find our profiles and follow us by going to Viticci.MacStories.net or JohnVorhees.MacStories.net. And of course, we're on Instagram, where Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.